Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming for this late afternoon press conference. I'm joined today by some distinguished guests here. Our Mayor's Advisor on Violence Prevention, Victor Saunders, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Recreation and Human Services, Sarah Fletcher, our Manager of Crisis Services, Aaliyah Hinton-Williams, our Commissioner of the Department of Recreation and Human Services, Dr. Shirley Green, our Manager of Violence Prevention, and most recently our Leader of Pathways to Peace, Zeke Tukes, our Deputy Chief, Keith Stith, and of course Dr. April Aycock, who runs the mental health services for Director of Office of Monroe County Mental Health, Dr. April Aycock. And I did all that without looking. See, my memory is good. So I want to thank them for being here with us today. I want to thank you all for being here. We want to give a brief update on the mass shooting that took place last Sunday at Maplewood. And we're also here to announce some steps we're taking to help our community heal from the trauma of this incident. I just want to say again that events like this can't be normalized. They cannot be normalized, and they cannot become a part of the regular DNAs of our community. And unfortunately, over the last decade or so, in our cities across America, we often take for granted that a mass shooting or a violent incident happens and then people can just snap back into the regular days of life. Well, I'm here to tell you that you just can't snap back. You can't go back to the regular days of life as if anything did not happen. And that's why it's important that we provide mental health services for our folks. Before I get to the mental health services, I want to say that the state government, as well as our federal government, who I've been in contact with regularly, have been great in terms of offering support for anything that we may need. You know, pulling out a gun and opening fire in the middle of a city park with hundreds of people, including children and babies, is way beyond deviant behavior. So we should just get that right out of the way. It's a depraved indifference to human life, and we need to call it as that. That is what it is. We're not going to accept it, and we need to make sure that we say that those standards are completely unacceptable, and we need to raise our standards to say that that is wrong. It's not what we want to see, and it's not what we want to see in our community. But one way we have to recognize this trauma or this trauma that exists in incidents like this, is call it out and make sure that we provide spaces for our community to be able to heal. So this week you're going to hear about a series of walk-in counseling sessions with trained therapists at our R centers, where community members who've been impacted by violence can go and get the support that they may need in the short term, but also be able to connect with people who will be able to help them over a long term. I want people to understand, when you have someone in a park that went there for a barbecue or to push their child on the swing, but then have to be met with gunfire, the implications of that are far-reaching. So although the city and county can't solve this by ourselves, it's important that we provide that space. Before I turn it over to Deputy Chief Stith, I want to encourage people to continue to come forward with information. We continue to hear from people on a daily basis with information. No piece of information is too small. No piece of information is too insignificant. They're all significant. And one of the things that I can tell you that I've been very happy with in the community this past year is the number of individuals that have come forward with tips, that have called the mayor's office, that have called major crimes, the photos that have been sent, the videos that have been sent. People in this community have had enough of this nonsense. They've had enough. And they want it to end. And they are doing everything that they can to make sure we bring these individuals to justice. We're going to put out again the picture of one individual that we're looking for in particular, that we're looking to be identified. We want that picture to stay out there as long as we can. Because what people sometimes count on is that the next news cycle will change and that we won't forget that we will forget what those faces look like, of those individuals carrying guns. We are not going to forget what those faces look like. And if we have to do this every week, we'll put those pictures out there, and we might even put them on billboards, because that's how sick of it we are in this community, of people thinking that they can carry illegal firearms and then come and wreak havoc on innocent people. So we're saying that that's done. We're tired of that. So these people know that we are hot to trot. Since the beginning of the year, we've taken 475 guns away. But that's still not enough, because individuals most likely with illegal guns use them at that park. And I can almost guarantee, I'm not a betting man, but I will bet you that the individuals that used those firearms that day, they were illegal. I bet you any amount of money they were illegal. So I'm going to have Keith Stiff just give a brief update on where we stand with the investigation, and then I'm going to have Dr. Green come and talk about the mental health sessions that we will be offering this week, as well as Dr. Acock. Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. Last week's shooting at Maplewood Park remains a very active investigation. This is a top priority for RPD, and we are focused on bringing those responsible to justice. We already developed some very promising leads, and we're developing more. But I want to remind everyone that investigations like this are very methodical, very deliberate and careful. And that's why the community help is so important. That's why every piece of additional information is so important. Something you know might seem like a minor detail to you, but to our investigators, it's one more piece of the puzzle, and that can make a critical difference. If you have any information on this incident, please call our Major Crimes Unit at 428-7157 and tell us what you know. One piece of that puzzle we want to fill in is the identity of the person in the photo we distributed last week. Our communications director, Barbara Pierce, has this image and will share it again today. This man was at the park with a gun at the time of the shooting, and we want to know who he is. If you recognize this person or you have any information on this incident, please call our Major Crimes Unit at 428-7157 and tell us what you know. Like Mayor Evans said, we can't allow any incident like this to become normalized in our community. Anyone who would do something like this doesn't deserve any semblance of respect. They don't deserve your silence. They don't care about our community. They don't deserve to be on the streets where they can't commit more violence. These cowards deserve to be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Maplewood Park is our park. The people who gather there are from our community. Let's protect our park and protect our community. Please call us and tell us what you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. And we know that there are people who might have more information on this. They have data on this. They know, they have data points on things that they may remember. And we've gotten lots of information. We have lots of promising leads. But we need help to be able to complete that entire puzzle. And that one picture that we're handing out is a big piece of that puzzle. We want to know who that individual is so we can speak with him. So please come forward. Crime Stoppers offers a reward for information leading to an arrest. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing I'll say is that people can remain anonymous. A lot of the stuff I got was anonymous, or they wanted to remain anonymous. So a lot of the information that we have gotten have been from anonymous sources. The pictures, the videos, a lot of this stuff is from anonymous sources. So it is critical that people understand that they can be anonymous if they so choose. So I want to reiterate how proud I am of the investigators of the Rochester Police Department who have been working tirelessly to try to bring these and other individuals to justice who feel as though they can create havoc in our community. These people have been relentless in pursuing every lead to make arrests, to make sure that we bring these shooters to justice. And like I said, and I'm going to keep saying this, it's not normal. It ain't normal. It is not normal. So if you were there Sunday night and experienced trauma, I want people to know that you don't have to deal with that trauma alone. The City of Rochester and Monroe County are here for you to begin that healing process, which will not take place in a week or 2 weeks. You know, years ago, we didn't really talk about trauma openly. It was something that people didn't think was okay to talk about publicly. We thought it was kind of soft to talk about mental health and trauma and healing. It sounded squishy. But we now know, the data tells us that if you don't talk about it, and if you don't address it, you are only perpetuating more trauma. And there's nothing more traumatic than being in a park and being shot. So the City of Rochester and Monroe County are here to help to begin that healing process. And I want to turn it over to Dr. Green, who will step forward to talk about some immediate steps that we're taking to start that process. And I want to underline, start the process and immediate steps. Over the next weeks and months, there are going to be more long-term processes as well, but we're living right now in the immediate moment, and I want to have Dr. Green come speak to those. Doc?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to first thank our partners at Monroe County, our work with Dr. April Aycock and your team that happens year-round, and together we are stronger. I also want to echo the Mayor's point about this violence is not normal. Violence like this impacts people deeply. Dozens of people who were there when Taisha and Felicia were killed. This is not normal. And dozens more are their friends and family who were at the park as well. All of these people will never be the same, all because of the violence and selfish decisions made by other people. But we can come together and work to heal the trauma caused by this violence. Many of you are familiar with our city's Person in Crisis team, or our PIC team. Our PIC team is a complement to the county's FIT team, which works 24/7 to respond to urgent mental health needs in our community. Some of you may also be familiar with our homicide response team, which works immediately and directly with individuals who have lost a family member through homicide. In addition, the city's community response team provides individuals affected by violence with a variety of services to help them achieve healing through support and planning. These three teams work within the city's Crisis Intervention Unit, which is led by our amazing leader, Aaliyah Henton-Williams. After last week's horrific shooting, Aaliyah and her team joined with Department of Recreation and Human Services partnership, Breathe Deep, to immediately, and I want to stress that, immediately provide services to family members of the victims as well as Taisha's co-workers at our centers. We also engaged with those our centers last week and made sure they were able to share their experiences and begin to address the trauma and loss they've experienced. Today, we want to make sure everyone in our community is aware of and has access to support services to help them in the wake of this violent event. In partnership with Monroe County and our partners with Breathe Deep and other community agencies, we will be opening our doors for those who were impacted by the incident that happened at Maplewood Park last weekend. We will be conducting walk-in sessions free for residents of the City of Rochester at our centers, where members of our PIC team, members of our FIT team, members from Breathe Deep counseling team, and others will be available to reach out to them. They will begin starting tomorrow, Tuesday, August 6th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We will continue this on Tuesday at Edgerton Rec Center. On Wednesday, we will be at Carter Rec Center. Thursday, we will be at Thomas Ryan Art Center, all between the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. These sessions are free, and it's the beginning to start the healing process, talking with counselors who will be able to connect these attendees with additional supports as well as long-term care if needed. If these days and times don't work for you, please reach out to our community support team at 585-428-6630, and we will make sure you get connected. 988 is also available for any resident who needs support. You can get connected to any of the city or county resources at any time, again by calling 988. Violence like this is not normal, but it is normal to suffer pain, concern, anxiety, and trauma as a result of incidents like this. And as the mayor said, we cannot normalize the violence. But I know that the county executive and Dr. Aycock are all working with us to make sure that we are addressing mental health services in our community. And I'm proud to work with the city and the county in a future partnership that we will be able to share with you in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. You know, I was saying to someone today that, you know, we have continued to see a reduction in shootings. So, you know, last July, I think we were at 42 shootings. This past July were 24 shootings. Big difference. But that is no solace for individuals that are victims of shootings. And that's why we have to send the message that no shooting is normal, right? So while we celebrate a reduction, we're happy to see a reduction, we're still not satisfied, because if you have people being shot in the park or people sitting on their porch being shot, that is not something that should take place in a civilized society. And then the trauma, the people who are affected by that, all those people that are there, Taisha's coworkers, Felicia's family and friends and coworkers, all those people that were at the park, our first responders. This is trauma that impacts the entire community, and they don't realize that that it impacts you sometimes. You don't realize it. So that's why we're trying to normalize this conversation around mental health. Something like this has never really been done in Rochester before, where we said for the entire community, if you feel affected, come to a place and talk to someone. And at least let us get you connected. At least let's have a conversation about this, because we think that the mental health component is very, very important in our community, and that's why we are having that. So thank you, Dr. Green. And of course, Monroe County and the Office of Mental Health, they are critical partners for us at City of Rochester. So much of what we do could not be done without the Monroe County Office of Mental Health, led by Dr. Aycock, who works for our great county executive, Adam Bello, and our other important partners that are helping us with the healing process. So I'm grateful to have Dr. Aycock here today to talk about our partnership and the work her team already does with the FIT team, but also talk about how it's important for our community to heal. I mean, Monroe County, we're blessed to have an Office of Mental Health, and they've come up with a lot of different devices. There's an app. There's all types of things that Dr. Aycock can touch on, but it's critical for us in Monroe County, particularly in the city of Rochester, to know that we must take advantage and take care of our mental health. So Dr. Aycock.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to tell you all the level of commitment that we have with partnering, and we're so happy that we're partnering with the city, is that I was actually on vacation last week, and immediately Dr. Green and I was on the phone, as well as Aaliyah, trying to coordinate with our FIT team and PIC team to provide counseling services. So thank you so much for the partnership. No one should have, I'm gonna keep this brief, no one should have to experience a horrific and traumatic event that our community face. Monroe County is committed to partnering with the City of Rochester to ensure brief, grief, loss, and trauma counseling services are available this week, as trauma can be expressed in different ways. Again, trauma can be expressed in different ways, okay? In addition to the counseling services that we will be providing, I want everybody to know that you can dial 988. I know that we mentioned it earlier, Dr. Green, but you can also reach out to 988 and get connected to a crisis and suicide counselor, a live counselor, okay? Anytime, 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Again, trauma comes out in different ways. In addition to that, the mayor mentioned our Monroe County Office of Mental Health app. That has a variety of various resources, as well as a safety plan that you can put in there, and you can actually give it to other people. Again, remember that trauma happens differently. You do not have to suffer alone. There's resources out there in addition to what we are providing as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Aycock. Again, I just want to reiterate to to folks to take advantage of those sessions on August 6th, August 7th, and August 8th from 5 to 7. Media, you have those in your in the release that the Director of Communications will hand out. So if you can make sure that you push those out to the broader community so people can take advantage of those. And then we will be announcing subsequent sessions as we go forward because this is a process that is not just done in a week or 2 weeks or in a month. We have to make sure that we socialize the importance of mental health as a regular, everyday occurrence that we want members in our community to be able to take advantage of, regardless of your income and regardless of your zip code. Those access to mental health services are absolutely critical, and we want to encourage people to be able to do that. But also, I want to make sure that people in the community continue to send in your tips to make sure that we can bring individuals to justice, not just for this crime, but any other crimes that may have been committed in our community. And I want to thank the community once more for their steadfast support in providing information to us to help us solve a lot of these crimes. And we're seeing the results of that this year in our clearance rate that has gone up because of community participation and community partnership. We can't do this without the community, so I'm happy about that. We have the opportunity to take a few questions before we wrap up. So if anyone has questions, I'll just go right down the line. Isabel.
Works there, can also act.
Yeah, great question. So her question is around Dr. Aycock. I'll let Dr. Aycock take this. And I'll just repeat the question because people always say, we can't hear when the reporters ask the question. Can you repeat them? So I'm getting better at that. So the question is about what does trauma look like? How does it show up in people, and what can we do to make sure we address that? And Dr. Aycock is very able at answering that question. Dr. Aycock.
Thank you. So briefly, this is there's more symptoms that people can experience. Sometimes people do not want to talk at all. Okay, so they completely shut down, don't want to talk about the situation. Sometimes you have people who want to talk about it. Sometimes you have people that are crying, associated with it. Sometimes people will wake up in the middle of the night experiencing what we call post-traumatic stress syndrome. So they may be experiencing night sweats, nightmares, flashbacks as well. So there's a long laundry list, but I just want you to know that it's going to look different for each person, and that's the key. I may be emotional, you may not be emotional, so it will look different for each person. That's why it's important to just at least talk, even if you just sit on the phone with somebody or sit in the office and talk to somebody at one of the rec centers. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Great question. Any others? Mr. Breen.
Mayor, you mentioned how the shootings have gone down, homicides have gone down, so something is working. But I went back to Maplewood Street today, and I talked to people who live there, and I told them I was coming to talk to you, and is there one thing they'd like to share with you, or what would they say to you? And one mother told me she used the phrase "stop and frisk." Would you ever consider that?
No, I wouldn't, because I think that we have so much intelligence now. And I mean, stop and frisk is something that you sometimes people employ because they feel as though they're at the end of the rope and they are so frustrated. But I would say to someone that when you use a firm like stop and frisk, I think about my little, my young cousins or my 13-year-old son who might fit the description of someone. And what if he stopped and he didn't have anything to do with the crime? We now have such great intelligence, and the deputy chief can talk to this, that we know the type of individuals that we are looking for from a variety of sources, from blue light cameras, from social media, from witness statements that we have. So what we do in Rochester is that we have a more targeted approach to the individuals that we are looking for, so that way we are not, shall I say, targeting an entire community. And therefore, you have a dragnet, and then you end up bringing in innocent people. And then the other thing you have to remember is that we've had some challenges over the last 4 years, starting in 2020 with Rochester Police Department and residents. And we're trying to improve those relationships. Those relationships would be irreparably harmed if we just started grabbing a random person, frisking them, and they had nothing to do with the crime. So I think because of our technology, we have actionable intelligence where we know who exactly what we're looking for. And what we're saying through our gun-involved violence elimination program, what we're saying through our partnerships. Just before this, I had a meeting with the U.S. Marshals, the Justice Department, the New York State Police, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, who are all our partners. What we're saying is when we work collectively, we're more willing to be, we're more able to be more precise in the individuals that we're able to get. So I get the frustration, and someone may use the term stop and frisk, but I think in a stop and frisk type policy, you're actually hurting more people than helping people. I'll go behind. Tell me your name again. I always forget. Kayla, DNC, right? Kayla Kane, yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I already know what he's going to say, so I can answer it for you. That's all part of the ongoing investigation, obviously. And obviously, you have seen, I will say that you have seen pictures that you should have this other picture that's out there. I would say that's important. That's an important part of the investigation. But I will tell you that one of the things that you don't want to do here is jeopardize an investigation. But I will say, and I'm sure I can speak for the deputy chief here, that there are lots and lots of leads related to this, lots and lots of theories that are related to this, lots and lots of individuals that have come forward as it relates to this, as it relates to this incident. So I would say stay tuned in terms of all of that. But what I really want to impress upon you and the broader community is that we just need continuously to put that information out there. I'm amazed that just randomly, someone will call the mayor's office and say, hey, we're sending you this picture. We're sending you this video. And they say, oh, I don't know if it's going to help. And we say, no, send us everything that you have. So no information is too small. And I would urge you one day, you can look at some of these past cases. Technology is a major benefit for us today. It is a major benefit for us today because we have cameras in more places where we didn't have them before. Almost everyone is a mini reporter because they're carrying their cell phones in their pockets. And that is invaluable evidence. So all those things are important as we look to try to close out this investigation. And we will continue to be as transparent as possible in terms of information and forthcoming that we give the community because we feel as though by doing that, people will give us more information. But we'll also be very vigilant in making sure that we don't compromise any pieces of the investigation as it relates to trying to bring these individuals to justice. I can take one or two more questions before we wrap up. I'm sorry. And can you just tell me your name because I don't think I... Oh, Marsha, okay. Yes, Channel 10. Yes. Good seeing you. Good seeing you. Yes. Hi. Yes. Well, I'm always careful not to pat myself on the back when shootings or homicides go down. Because we have to remember, in an industrialized nation like the United States, I believe that we should have zero shootings. Now, I know that that may not be realistic because we have the proliferation of illegal guns, and I gave that number, close to 500 illegal guns taken off the street. But I just think that any shooting or any stabbing or any killing is senseless and barbaric in the 21st century in America. So while I am gratified that we have seen a huge reduction in shootings, I am not satisfied because how can I be satisfied when I was just on the phone with Taisha Manning's father? Or how can I be satisfied when I had the family, the father and the grandmother and grandfather of the young man who was the victim of an arson where some cowards set a house on fire? How could I be satisfied with that? So while I'm proud that the numbers are going down and they're going down in the right direction, I won't be satisfied until we get at functional zero in our community. Because there are countries in the world that are industrialized where they have not had a single shooting homicide in decades. The mayor of Glasgow, Scotland, Susan Aiken, we were in a group in the mayor's Bloomberg group, and we all went around the room and talked about the challenges that we have. And I said gun violence. And she looked at me like I had two heads. She said, we haven't had a shooting in Glasgow, Scotland that resulted in violence and someone being violently killed in decades. Isn't that what we want for Rochester? Isn't that what we want in America? That's what we have to aim for. So while I am very satisfied about the reduction that we've seen, I'm not gratified. Because how can I be gratified when someone can't sit on a porch and not get shot? How could I be gratified when a child can't go to bed and know that they won't wake up the next morning because someone decided to set their house on fire? Or someone stabbed in the neck by a friend over an argument over money at a store? I mean, those types of things remind us that we still have a lot of work to do. We must celebrate the successes, and I think we should. And I think our strategy of prevention, intervention, and suppression has bore some fruit. But we still have a long way to go. And I'm not yet there yet when I'm ready to jump up and down, wave the flag, and pat myself on the back.
And then lastly, Mayor Evans, you can answer this for Dr. Green or Dr. Aycock. Feel free. Mental illness. Well, first of all, the resources that are being offered sounds like a great opportunity for every person in the community to benefit from this, I'm sure, right? How do we get these people there to take part in these great resources?
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Especially people in the black community who a lot of times want to pray it off.
Pray it away. We say pray it away, yeah. So the question there was, how do we get people to take advantage of these resources? And I'll let Aaliyah, Dr. Aycock, and Dr. Green weigh in here, is that one of the things I think that we're doing is we are putting them in safe spaces like our centers to say, okay, you know, this is a place you may not want to come, but you can come. You don't have to go to an office or city hall to come and do those things. I hope that will help. And then I also hope that that some of the therapists and counselors that we are using are people that can relate to them. I think that also is helpful there. Dr. Green or Aaliyah, I don't know if you wanted to add any more in terms of how we can get people to take advantage of these services.
Well, obviously, the first step is to offer it. I mean, our community has to know that we care and that we genuinely care. The reality is that what has happened is tragic, it's heartbreaking, and there are families and waves of people who have been impacted by what has happened. And so I think that the Crisis Services Unit, the PIG team, the FIT team, that we're ambassadors of this work. And so we're able, in our contact with people on a day-to-day basis, to talk about what's available in our community at every opportunity. And we both teams and unit, we work 24 hours a day. We meet a lot of people day in and day out. So we need to make sure that the community is aware of these services and opportunity and encourage people on attending and participating and helping to remove barriers in accessing those services. So whether it's transportation or just feeling a little hesitant about participating, we want to encourage and motivate our community to understand community trauma and take advantage of opportunities to try to reduce it.
And then I'll also add that both Dr. Aycock and Aaliyah's team, Dr. Green's team, as well as Zeke's team, there are street teams that we have that are out in the community. I think when you're on the street talking to those people one-on-one, that's where the connections really can be made, to say this is where you need to go. And I know this as the son of somebody who was part of streets teams. And I would go with my dad under the bridge, around corners, all over the place. And he would have to ask people sometimes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before they decided to take advantage of those services. But when you have credible people that can build that rapport and messaging, they see those same people over and over again, and then eventually they say, you know what, I'm going to take you up on your offer. So that's why even these sessions that we're offering here, we know that these won't solve the problems overnight, but we hope that this will continue to be an entryway to get people connected and then get them to try to continue to draw in. Because as a community, not just around this issue, but around mental health broadly, we need more people connected to mental health services. It is the number, gun violence, mental health services, and addiction are the top 3 issues in Monroe County that we continue to deal with. But the mental health piece is something that we have to continue to highlight to the top and use every avenue available to get people to take advantage of those resources. I can take one more question before we wrap up, if anyone has one. Yes, I believe you are with Channel 13? Natalie, Channel 13, yes. You know, we have heard from many people broadly in the community that says we need to be able to set places where people can heal. And, you know, at Maplewood Park, there was an event, I believe it was last Thursday, that was held where you had community health workers, social workers that were there. They had their green tags on, and that was in that space to allow people to be able to come forward. So there's been a lot of people, I believe, that have said people need to have people that they can speak with, and we need to be able to do this for the long term, but also to remind people of the existing services that are out there, because we don't do that enough. We need to remind people of the existing services that are out there that we want to have people take advantage of. So there's definitely a need for it. So again, I want to thank you all again for being here. You all have been great in terms of us getting the message out. Please continue to get the message out. That one particular photo that was just handed to you, if you can please stress that we have not been yet successful in looking for that individual, and that picture is extremely important as it relates to the overall puzzle of getting some answers of what happened at Maplewood Park. So please continue to push those out, and we thank you all for your time. Thank you, everybody.
Those dates and addresses. I want to make sure that we don't need cameras to go down to the art centers while we're doing these. So I just wanted to ask for your cooperation and just letting people go and have some mental health time with counselors instead of getting caught by cameras or reporters.